Okay, if we could have roll call, please.
Yes. Eric Sutton.
Here.
Linda Garrett. Here. Joe Kane. Absent. Jacob Moody.
Here.
Roy Fisher. Here. Bennett present. Supervisor Peterson.
Here. Accounted for except for one. Okay, any announcements?
No.
Department reports, as usual, available in my office. If anybody needs one, please contact myself or my deputy supervisor. Financial reports we have in the packet. Petitions, any petitions?
No.
Okay, order of business, approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda. Second.
Do we have a motion and a second? Do we have any discussion from the board members? Not hearing any. Could we please have roll call on that, please?
Yes. Jacob Moody.
Yes.
Linda Garrett. Yes. Eric Sutton.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Peterson.
Yes. Okay, consent agenda.
Before the board are the June 1st, 2020 minutes, also the bills is paid for June and July. Resolution to approve the agreement for the CARES Act distribution with Oakland County and Oxford Addison Youth Assistance Sponsorship Funds.
I'll make a motion to move the consent agenda as proposed.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and we have support. Any comments from the other board members? Not hearing any. Could we have roll call, please?
Linda Garrett. Yes. Eric Sutton.
Yes.
Jacob Moody.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Peterson.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to item number 2. It's the fire department authorized one additional full-time firefighter EMT position. The fire department, they'd like to have a full-time position. We received a request from our fire chief, and I think it's important that we offer our citizens the very best for protection. I don't think we should be asking for waivers. Right now, with the Oakland County Medical Control Authority, we have to continue to request waivers because they request that, or their requirement is that you have to have 2 people of that, EMT and ALS for transporting. You have to have 2 people on the fire engine. We don't always have that, and we've been getting an exemption for a long time, but that's going to end. We know that, and we are trying to get in compliance. Some of the rural areas we don't have manpower, but by adding one more, that will fill most of our requirements. We might have to do something a little later, but for right now, the chief thinks this is very important, and I believe that it's time that we do add that person. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
I just like to say I think it's important that we follow the protocol. Everybody can't see what Jerry wrote, so I would just like to ask, Jerry, were you able to fit this into the budget?
Yes, I was. We've been tight for this year, and as you notice, the wages are considerably less because it is an EMT than a paramedic. So we're able to fit that in for the rest of the year until April, and then I see that there should be no reason why we should be able to support this from here on out.
So then, once this is approved, you'll be ready and set to go to fill the position?
Yes, immediately. With the posting, we have to post it internally, of course, and follow the protocol or the township ordinance that way. Yes.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for looking forward for our township.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? We had a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the fire department authorizing an additional full-time firefighter EMT position.
Second.
We do have a second. Yes, he wants us to posting immediately because the fire training school starts the 1st of September. And they would like to get him in on that. That's part of the requirement that he pass the EMT.
I'll amend my motion to.
How about second? Will you second that? Okay. And we have trustee Moody seconds. Okay, So I believe that we should have a roll call on this one then, please.
Eric Stern,
Yes.
Linda Garrett. Yes. Jacob Newman. Yes. Lori Fisher.
Yes.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. And that passes. We'll move on to item number 3. Item number 3 is Lake Lock District Overlay and Planning Commission recommendations. This request came from the board. The board requested that the Planning Commission research the proposed amendments. And after meetings with the Planning Commission and on June 30th, I believe, and various other meetings, PC passed a resolution listing 8 findings and does not recommend an amendment to the ordinance provision. We can either accept that, reject it, or we can have it go back to the Planning Commission for any further direction. Myself, I looked at a lot of it, and everything that we have on our dock ordinance pretty much emulates what's on the lakes and streams documents. And I'll just read some of the current ordinance is presumed to be rational and reasonable. It has not been demonstrated that a single dock of 35 feet in length is not an adequate accommodation for 2 watercraft. Many lakefront lots are in compliance with the current docks. Docks of 220 square feet without limitation or configurations would impact lake navigation and access to shallows by recreational boaters and fishermen. Provision that would require the ordinance officer to determine allowable docks configuration is neither an objective nor a practical measure and without standards. It has not been demonstrated that the existing dock regulations constitute a practical difficulty, as evidenced by the number of docks now in compliance with the existing regulation. It is not recommended policy to alter zoning regulations to address ordinance violations of property owners who have not been notified of such violations. And the proposed changes are not shown to be consistent with the purpose of the Lake Lot District. We do have a memo from our attorney, which in the conclusion there pretty much says that this lake lot, this overlay is deemed to be supported and reasonable. I'll open it up to the board right now for any comments from a board member. I'd like to hear it.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to ask to have you read one of the observations, number 7 again, because as you read it, it kind of was confusing.
Okay. Number 7 is, it is not recommended policy to alter zoning regulations to address ordinance violations of property owners who have been notified of such violations. Okay. I might have missed something on that the first time.
You said they were not notified.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments from the board on this? Would anybody on the board like to state anything on this? I will say one thing. First of all, I looked at the the view of the other lakes, the big lakes in Oakland County. Most of them are in compliance with Eagle. They're all just a linear dock. I don't see any 2 docks. I mean, I checked out Cass Lake, Lake Orion, Walled Lake. Those are bigger lakes. I think Addison, Lakeville Lake is maybe number 7 on the lakes in size, I think, in Oakland County. But all of those were in single docks per property owner, and they were all linear. I didn't see anything else. As far as I'm concerned, Wayne Hodges is the president of the lake property owners. And I think that maybe if the lake property owners want to come back and they want to possibly have the planning commission look into doing away with the township control of the docks and turn it over to Eagle, I have no problem with that. and let Eagle enforce the dock issue. But that's just my opinion. And I leave that up to the Lake Owners Association. But as I look at our ordinance and I look at Eagles, they're pretty much all in a line. I did notice that some of the other lakes don't have an ordinance that controls it. They leave that up to Eagle. And they got out of the dock business a long time ago. But we have Trustee Fisher who would like to add something. Please go ahead.
I had looked at overlays of a couple lakes in the area, and actually I was surprised at how many, when I looked at Addison, at Lakeville Lake, how many were not compliant. And I looked at Tan Lake in Oxford and a couple other lakes in the area, and I actually saw a lot that would not be compliant, that were not linear. A word that I noticed throughout most of this documentation was reasonableness. And I was quite fortunate this summer to spend a couple nights up at some different lakes, and it was kind of the same thing where you had a linear dock with a small something out there where you could sit and kind of enjoy the evening. To me, this makes me a little bit uncomfortable because it doesn't have a bearing on my life, and if the property owners want something in particular, I I'm hesitant to say that linear is the only way to go because it seems to me that that's not, especially around Lakeville Lake, that's not necessarily the norm. I didn't know that that was an option, Supervisor Pearson, that we could get out of enforcing the ordinance.
I'm not saying that we could get out of enforcing the overlay because we do have, and believe me, right now we have several issues on the 25-foot setback that we're going to have to go to court on. We have people that, of course, are just doing whatever they want in the 25-foot setback. That's one of our ordinances that we are trying to keep this lake as pristine as possible. But the dock ordinance, if you look at some of these other communities, the local ordinance, they're out of the business. They used to be in the business of trying to control the local docks, and they got out of it, okay? If you go over to the Tri-Cities area, they're no longer handling local ordinance on the dock. They turn that over to Eagle. Eagle has a process. Basically, it emulates our process, and you have to petition to Eagle, and then they will tell you what you can have and what you can't have. Now, I will say on that, if you research it, you'll see that Eagle is not quite as generous as we are on the linear part of the dock. But Eagle controls permanent docks, but not always the seasonal docks.
Well, again, to me, having a small T area out at the end of the dock seems reasonable. If you're thinking about a 4 or 6 foot, I can't imagine trying to put 2 chairs out there to enjoy an evening or watch the lake.
So let me ask this. So you don't think the Planning Commission got this one right? Is what you're saying?
Unfortunately, I wish I'd have paid more attention since last December to it and went to some of these meetings, I guess, because from what I did research, it seemed like there was overwhelming support for an ordinance change from the lake owners, is what my understanding is. And in a case like this, this only affects the lake owners.
And we have one from Trustee Sent. Go right ahead.
The comment I make, I spend a lot of time on Lake. Half of them are unsafe, half of the docks that I've noticed. They're old, they're practically unsafe. So, are we in the business of also making sure they're safe other than the ordinances? So to me, it makes a lot of sense to turn that over to somebody else. And let the lake owners decide themselves. And this outfit, it's called what, Eagle?
Eagle is,
Yeah.
The old DNR and the,
Exactly.
I don't know what they'll be Goose next year. I don't know what they'll be calling themselves, but
Well,
Eagle.
whatever. Yeah.
But my opinion is that they do allow for special circumstances at Eagle. where you can petition for a particular circumstance, and maybe that's the route that the lake owners want to go so that they determine their own destiny with Eagle. Eagle now, of course, regulates all of the docks throughout the state. Maybe that's the proper way, because if you look at our ordinance, it's pretty much right in line with what Eagle has, except that we don't have a special use that you can petition for or whatever. So,
Well, it is in the Eagles rules that it's a linear dock, because I'm of the same mindset of you. I love those little dock landings.
Mhm.
Maybe Eagle lets them do that with a temporary, I don't know, but our ordinance almost mirrors
Well,
what this is, and maybe that is a better option so that let the professionals in that field take it over.
well, and
There's
Eric,
one comment I'd like to make on that, okay? Before we go to this beautiful sitting area at the end of a dock, let's check with the Marine Division, how many tickets were ordered of boats getting too close and people were thrown off the docks, because they exist.
oh, okay.
Because they stick out in there and a wave comes by, and some of them are floating, they're not fixed. There's been a few, I'm not talking strictly platforms. There's been some incidents where people, through waves, were thrown off those. Just throwing it out, something to consider.
We have Trustee Garrick. Go right ahead.
I was gonna say that the township ordinance is less restrictive than Eagle's ordinance. In their point, most townships are more restrictive than Eagle's, in my experience. So we are unusual that we are less restrictive.
I agree. If I looked at the ordinance, and Eagle doesn't allow as long a dock as what we have, linear. Theirs is a shorter. So those are things to consider. I will say that I lived on the St. Clair River, and I had a big platform on the end of mine where you could sit or fish at the end of the platform, and that was controlled by, Eagle and of course the Army Engineering Corps, yeah, and they allowed that to happen, and that was acceptable. So, but I had to file for permits to get that, and that was through those state regulated boards. Yes.
The way it works is you would apply a joint application, or actually in this case, a single application to Eagle for a minor permit, meaning that you fit into their parameters. If you wanted something different, they actually have a public hearing on it. And then if that's approved, then you can proceed. So it's just an extra step in the process to have something else where we would be under ordinances going through zoning board of appeals.
Okay.
No, we don't want to start that.
Well, what I'm looking at right now is that we can follow through with the recommendations of the Planning Commission right now, or we can't. And we can, at a later time, I think that the Wayne Hodges, the president of the Lake Association, he should maybe come in and formally request that that the Planning Commission look at Eagle taking over this. But right now, this request was made by the board to look over this ordinance by the board to the Planning Commission. So this is our job tonight, whether or not we want to accept the recommendation or reject the recommendation. And like I said, further down, if somebody wants to come to us and they want to be the petitioner, and they want the Planning Commission to look at what they might recommend, then that's fine with me. So what's anybody's pleasure on this?
Well, my recommendation would be to accept the planning commission's resolution.
Second.
And so we have Trustee Garrett and Trustee Sant seconding the motion to accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission. Anybody have any further words on this?
So some of these people, and you mentioned that they've had the dock for like 15 years. And I was just wondering, was there a lack of enforcement at some point that was contributing to this issue?
Generally, what we do is the enforcement comes about when somebody petitions us and comes in and files a complaint. And that's what happened. We got complaints that came in, and we followed those complaints. And then when we were trying to follow up on certain complaints, of course, there were more and more complaints or more and more violations. So to treat everybody equally, you can't just pick on one person and have the neighbor not have the exact same thing. So it got to be to the point where we had to treat everybody equally on this. We couldn't just ignore the fact that if we got 12 complaints, that the other 5 people right next door didn't have to comply, because then we knew we'd just get complaints again too, right after we went after certain people. And yes, there was a lack of enforcement only because there weren't any complaints. We didn't have complaints. I don't have the boat on the lake. I don't go around enforcing that. Maybe someday in the future we can get a liaison person from the lake or something who would like to be the person that would take the ordinance officer around and point out things that are terribly wrong that should be corrected. Maybe that's something we should ask for in the future. But if you don't live on the lake, you can't see these violations unless you actually go in everybody's backyard, because everybody is secluded unless you can see it from the lake.
I just have a minor question about Pickle.
About what now? Okay, yeah, we call it Eagle, but you're right.
Pickle. Do they have a very active enforcement?
Well, right now, do you think you can get any answer from the Secretary of State or from the unemployment or anything in the state? Probably not. Okay, if you're talking about we're going to have an active enforcement from Eagle, it's probably going to be after this pandemic is over. Yeah.
Are they responding to you?
Yeah, Eagle is very responsive to the lake. When they look at applications, they look at overlay time of the aerial images throughout a period of time. They can see the changes and they do enforcement.
So
for
even,
clarification, I'm sorry.
I was just going to add, even at this time, you're not having problems with Eagle getting out?
I have had Eagle in my office as recently as 2 weeks ago, asking
Okay.
about whether somebody got approval to do certain things.
And you live right on the water there, so you would know there. Okay. Yeah. Does that answer your questions?
No, I
Yeah.
have one for clarification. So if we're going to accept the recommendation from the planning commission, I follow that, but yet you're leaving the door open for Wayne to come and talk to you, or Wayne to come and talk to the planning commission about actually eliminating that portion?
I would say, number one, this is our issue tonight. Do we
Yes,
accept or
yes.
not? And if we do not accept this, I would say that the lake owners should get together with Wayne Hodges, their president, and decide what they want.
No, I'm saying if we accept the planning commission's recommendation, because
Right.
that's what we probably need to do, but the door's open
Yes.
for Wayne to come and talk to you about actually eliminating that one provision of the overlay district.
Well, not just, I want Wayne to go back to his Lake Owners Association and make sure that that is what they want and make a recommendation. Then Wayne, being the president, he could then even come to this board and petition at a meeting that that is what the lake owners want.
And that could be a solution.
And that could be a solution if they want to go that route. Both of them are enforcement actions, and both of them are very similar. I mean, if they don't want to go with the local ordinance one, then go with the Eagle one. But they're both similar, and they both have the same results as to controlling the docks. And go ahead,
I'm good with that.
Trustee Fisher.
On your lake, are the docks compliant? I actually didn't look up there. I looked at
On
Indian.
Maple Lake,
I thought, are you to the north?
I live on, I'm sorry, on Secord Lake, we don't have any docks.
There's nothing, no docks. So, and this is gonna affect Indian Lake as well, correct?
Yes, it's the Lake District overlay. So, wait, did we have a motion?
Yes.
And we did have a second?
Yes.
there any further comments on this from the board? None? Could we have a vote on that then, please?
Jacob Newby.
Yes.
Linda Garrett.
Yes.
Eric Stone.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
No.
Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay, we accept the recommendations of the Planning Commission. Thank you. Okay, move on to item number 4. Resolution authorizing the 2020 millage rates with special assessment district. The resolution authorizing the 2020 millage rate with special, this is routine business. We do this every year, establish millage rate that the township is allowed to levy. From here, the forms are forwarded to the county. And for the ease of everybody looking at it, there's a list of the SADs also on here, a few that are going to expire or expected to expire. And I do have Jamie, the deputy supervisor, she does send out letters contacting them because we like to have these all in by March so that we can get them on the agendas for the 2 readings in the future. So, are there any questions on this? Yes, go right ahead.
Clerk Bennett, I apologize for late notice. I had a note to ask you. Are the lighting districts supposed to be on?
They expired.
All of them?
We've sent out notices. Nobody seems to.
Better yet?
Okay, does anybody else have any questions?
I'll make a motion to move the resolution authorizing the 2020 millage rates with these special assessment districts.
Do we have a second?
I'll support.
And we have support. Clerk Bennett, is there any further discussion? Not hearing any, can we have a roll call on that, please?
Eric Stone.
Yes.
Yes.
Jacob Newby.
Yes.
Roy Fisher.
Yes.
Clerk Bennett, yes. Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. Okay. We'll now move on to item number 5 is establish procedure and authorize the election commission as the township entity to approve an agreement with Oakland County for the absentee voting board if such an agreement is deemed necessary by a unanimous vote of the election commission. As you know, when Clerk Bennett holds the election, we do tally up the votes ourselves, but I believe that the county now has some high-speed machines that can do that at the same time if we're overwhelmed. And I think this is more of a backup plan, if I'm correct, that if we need to do it, we can take ours into the county. Some of the townships are already doing that. And we are not proposing to change our procedure, but it's a fallback if we need to.
Similar
And
to what I introduced when we went to Kelly Services and everybody was shocked. But it is a backup plan. So example, COVID, if all of this area becomes with COVID, I need a backup plan so that I can call Joe and say, hey, we need you. Or if for some reason Addison ends up losing a lot of election inspectors, then it would be another opportunity to go. Addison is very, very fortunate that no matter what, everybody's coming back. I think I only had 3 people who said that they could not because of COVID reasons. And I'm getting new people calling saying, I'll work even during COVID to make sure that Addison Township can pull it off. So I do give a lot of kudos to the election inspectors, but I think it is important to have a policy in place so that 30 days prior to the election, if I'm getting phone calls, I'm sick, we have an action plan in place. So no, I'm not going to do it unless it's necessary.
okay. Does anybody have any questions on that, or a motion would be in order?
Is this just a consensus to determine whether we want to enter into an agreement policy?
I would kind of like to get some feedback from you guys. Are you comfortable with the county counting our absentee ballots? And then if you are comfortable with that thought process, then we would have to establish the procedure of stating that the election commission, which is supervisor, treasurer, and clerk, unanimously say, yes, we need to do this. So that is just not one person driving it.
This is a consensus, not an action item, or is a motion required?
Well, I do think that there should be a consensus at the very least. A motion would be required to actually establish the procedure that it would go through the election commission.
The way the last election went, it did pretty well. We don't know what holds in the future. I just say that, in my opinion, we should probably put a motion forward that this can be implemented if we need it to be. And if we don't need it, then so be it. We do it all here. We've always done it here. But if something should happen, if this pandemic gets worse or something like that or whatever, we should just have the option that that we can take it to the county and their high-speed machines can check everybody's ballot. I think it went very smoothly at the county last time, if I remember. So
They were ahead of schedule, and I think I
Correct.
put that clip in the board pack. So you said that they were finished processing all of their ballots at 3 p.m.
and they have the high-speed machines. We did check into getting a high-speed machine for ourselves here, and it's what, $85,000 or something, and it just doesn't. We have a slower machine, but theirs are they're prepared for this, and I think a lot of the other townships are taking advantage of this now and taking their ballots to the county now. So what I'm looking for is, I think, a motion that enables us to do this in an emergency situation. But if we can do it here, then let's do it here.
I think the motion needs to establish the procedure, which would be for the election commission to reach an agreement if it's deemed necessary by unanimous vote of the election commission. Because if we just say emergency, it's not establishing the procedure of who's going to say yes or no.
Okay, and I think that's Lori and I and you are on the election committee, so we need a unanimous vote on that at the time that we want to turn over. But we do need a motion here
Yes.
that allows us to then determine that later.
Well, I'll make the motion that the procedure be established and to authorize the election committee here at the township to approve the procedure and an agreement with Oakland County to assist us in the
By unanimous vote of the election commission.
Yep.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Anybody have any questions on that?
I do. What would define a need?
All of my workers call, and I only have two. One goes down at 2. Yeah, there's definitely. If I don't have employees showing up, I have 2 call and say they're sick, and I didn't. Able to pay it in other people. If all of a sudden the state, because you know what the state's going to do, says all ballots are going to be voted by mail, I will not be able to come up with ballots within the allowed time, so that could be another one. But most of it is based on lack of staffing, because more people, they enjoy it, they want to keep it in Madison. So as long as they're willing to go forward, we're going to do it.
All right.
Any other questions? Not hearing any. I think I'd like roll call on this one also, please.
Erickson,
yes.
Linda Garrett, Jacob Newby,
Yes.
Lori Fisher,
Yes.
Bennett, yes, Supervisor Pearson.
Yes. And that passes. Okay, we can go to public forum now. Okay, we'd like to open this up to public forum. I know there's some people that are on the internet that would like to maybe add something, and is there anybody that's on public forum? Do you see anybody? You're gonna have to look down here. I don't.
Yeah, it's Wayne Hodges. I for some reason the video isn't picking up, but I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay. Just 3 points. Understand the action tonight and the direction and the opportunity for the future. Number two, I would remind you that if we do go back to our membership, what we brought forward, we thought was a consensus of what the members wanted. I'd be surprised if it changed dramatically. But number two, you do have an employee there at the township that lives on the lake and has ample opportunity to observe things from the lakeside, and in the form of your chief building inspector. And so the township does have the opportunity to observe these things.
Yeah, this is public forum. This is where we listen. Okay, go ahead.
I understand.
You got 1 and 2. I didn't hear 3 yet. Go ahead with 3.
I've decided to withhold it.
Okay. Does anybody else on public forum want to speak? Anybody else in public forum would like to speak? We're here to listen. Okay, I think I have, is it Chuck Sargent? Go right ahead. No, you gotta,
Can you hear me? I had my mic off.
go right ahead.
I commend the board for the virtual meeting. However, because of the space that you are in, and my assumption is there is only one mic coming from the laptop, ownership is Pauline Bennett, which is capturing you, Mr. Chairman. Although on the screen, you're identified as Pauline Bennett.
Well, thank you.
That's, well, you're not quite as attractive, but that's okay. Your voice has changed. But because of the chamber that you are conducting the meeting, and because of perhaps one centrally located mic, people who are to your right and left of the chair, it is an echo. It is a feedback. And for me personally, I can't hear. I did not hear the motions. I heard the vote, and I think that, Executive Order 154 requires that all virtual meetings have a roll call vote on all actions. Also, that the audio should be made available to all those participating in the meeting. That being said, this is a learning curve. I think for the most part, GoToMeeting is working well, but I suggest that there need be a different approach perhaps to the microphones of the board trustees when they speak. And in a previous meeting, namely the ZBA meeting, the laptop was carried. It was positioned in front of different people at different times, which personally I do not recommend because it is distracting and the audibility is completely distorted. Other than that, I think the meeting went very well. That's my contribution verbally.
Very good. Anybody else would like to make any comments on the public forum?
I think regarding the third point, what I'd like to say is I understand the nature, as you quoted earlier, of the Lake Overlay District is to protect and preserve the nature of the lake. I would invite the board to think seriously about who is funding protecting the lake for safety when it comes to marine patrol, who is protecting the lake from the invasive species that incur more and more each year. It's the property owners, okay? Not the township, not the county, not the state. And the list goes on and on and on.
Okay, anybody else would like to make a comment on public forum? Okay, we will then close public forum. And we will move on to Addison Township Board reports. Anybody on the board that has a report?
I'd just like to mention that the Eagle Scout that gave us the flag drop box just received his Eagle got an award yesterday.
Very good.
Very proud. Is did very well.
So we've had probably a good dozen Eagle Scouts that have done projects for Addison Township and have made Eagle Scouts. So I'm very happy to help with that any way we can. Anybody else that's on board? Okay, nobody else. Legal reports, communications, any communications? Ms. Bennett?
No.
Okay, she was drifting off into no man's land there. Okay, a supervisor's report. I will just add my few things is, yeah, we do support the lake as far as trying to keep it pristine and everything. We have several cases right now that are pending that they're going to have to go to circuit court. People who are encroaching on the 25-foot setback, different like that. We do have the ordinance officer that the township is paying, and a lot of ordinance violations are being handled on the lake. So we do support the lake as far as economically also. Okay, we are trying to do as much as we can. We hired another ordinance officer because there's no way that one person who has several other jobs to do can spend the amount of time that's necessary to do that. So we do have another ordinance officer that, as you know, we hired, and he is out there and he's familiar with marine law and stuff. And so, yes, if we could get him out there, he will go around with somebody from the lake and maybe you can assist him in what needs to be done on the lake, and he will do that. As far as the audio on this, yes, we've discussed, we tried to get some microphones. We couldn't get them quick enough. I think that's in the future that we will get this microphones and maybe a speaker also, but we couldn't get them fast enough. They can't get here that quick, but we are looking into it for the next meeting. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the roads are in excellent shape. The road commission has been excellent on it. They've been doing some ditching. I've been going around with the road commission in the truck, and they have been doing some ditching where we need it for the water control. I finally got them out here to do their brush hogging at all the intersections along the road. As you know, their machines, they say, were broke down. They had to get them all fixed. We are getting all new gravel on Mack Road, the entire length of Mack Road from DeQuinder to Rochester, and we're also getting Oakwood re-graveled. I believe that's all the way to M24 also, and if you notice, there's a lot more use on Oakwood Road since the construction. We did have a little issue here. The sheriff was up at the meeting at the Leonard council meeting, and it has to do with golf carts and ATVs. So the sheriff reiterated that it is illegal for the ATVs to be on the roads. Okay, that's a state law. And golf carts, it is illegal for them to be on the road, but in the village of Leonard, because they do have roads that are under 30 miles an hour, they are now authorized to look into changing the ordinance so that golf carts can ride in Leonard, which is probably a good thing in the sense that they are a lower speed limit. That doesn't apply to the township because our roads are all 55 miles an hour, and the law says the speed limit has to be under 30 miles an hour. So the golf carts are still not allowed in the township. And there is I think, a petition going on right now with the road commission and the county board to possibly allow ATVs to be in the rural northern areas. That would apply to the township, and I believe that that's ongoing now because the western northern townships also now have an ATV park and different things like that. So things are changing a little bit on that, and we'll keep you updated on that. And COVID, as you know, has been a very difficult thing for all of us. I'd like to thank everybody for being patient with the township. We're trying to do everything we can to keep the employees and our visitors safe, and so far it's been working. We've had excellent results. We haven't had any incidences. The other thing, we did get some grants for all of the material that you see in the township that we're using. We got grants to pay for all of that. and the temperature instrument at the front there. We got grants for that also. And as you know, we got like 13 grants for our businesses in the township. And we just got another grant for $10,000 for one of our businesses. We want to make sure that our brick and mortar buildings stay open. And so every time I hear of a grant, the village president and I work together on getting as many grants as we possibly can to our businesses, because we want them all to be here when this is all done with. We don't want any of them going out of business. Other than that, I don't think I have, we do have graveling that will be done on Indian Lake Road this year. And it's going to be the entire Indian Lake Road, all the way from Lake George all the way to our border, which is Bar Road. And that will be done in a couple of weeks. They're starting the graveling for Mac and Oakwood. That will be starting also earlier than the one on Indian Lake. Other than that, I have nothing else. So I think what I'm looking for is a motion for adjournment. We have a motion from Jacob to adjourn and a second from Eric Sent. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are officially ended.